Okay, let's start. Y equals x squared. Basically, it's our base case scenario. We have our vertex at 0, 0, and then we can use our step pattern. So 1, our first step is 1, then our next step is 1, 3, then our next step is 5, and let's just draw it out. That is our parabola. There we go. Our next step is minus x squared. Y equals minus x squared. What this minus does, reminder, is that it just flips our parabola upside down. Same step pattern. So it starts at 0, 0. Let's do it in red. So it's our step pattern. First take one step. Then our next step is 1 that way. 1, 2, 3. The next step is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's erase some of that. And let's connect the dots. Whoops. How do I undo? Wow. Let's redo. Anyway, that's our graph. Now we have, what does that do? Well, that changes our step pattern. Remember, before it was 1, 3, 5 for our base case, 1, 3, 5, 7, etc., always increasing by 2. But now you multiply our step by 1/3, 3 3/3, which is 1, 5/3, and 7/3, etc. Let's see how that works. So let's do that in orange. And by the way, it is also opening downwards. So it's flipped upside down. So let's see how that's going to work. So for our first, and let's change our color to orange. So for our first point, same point. Our vertex is at the origin. But I'm only going to go 1/3 of the way up. Do you see how it's compressed? You're going to see how it's compressed in a second. The next step, I have to go 1. That'd be right here. Our next step is going to be 1 block. So basically, I started at 1/3. I'm going to end up at 4/3. And then my next step is going to be 5/3. So I go 1/3, 2/3, 3, 4, 5/3. And then finally again, my next step is going to be 7/3. So I'm going to take, that's basically 3/3. That's 6, and another point right there. Let's draw it out right there. And if you want, you can do 9/3 again. 9/3. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And let's draw it out. Right, approximate, because it's symmetric, we can just draw it out. Do you see how it's kind of compressed? Do you see why it's called compressed? It's not stretched, it's compressed. And that's equal to y equals minus 1/3 x squared. And then finally, we have this. What do we do when we have two things? We compress it by, we flip it, we compress it by 1/3, and then we move it up 6. So you know what we do? We can just move up every single point up by 6. So this was here 0, 0. It now shifts up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, let's use green. Green. This point is going to shift up. We could either shift up each point 6 points, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or we could just use our step pattern as like we did before, because it's the same step pattern. It's 1/3, 5/3. So my next point would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be right there. My next point would be 7 up. So it'd be right there, etc., etc. And it'd be the same shape as our orange. The only difference would be y equals, it'd be 6 units shifted upwards, because that's what the 6 does. All right, let's move on to our next slide. By the way, if you go through the slides, you will see that it's basically exactly the same thing, but we just drew it out. Okay, here's a task for you guys that we're going to do in class, okay? We're going to say y. What does h do? Like, what does this h do? We know this goes up or down. Whoops. That's the worst arrow I've ever drawn. This goes up or down. This thing compresses or stretches. But what about h? We said it moved left or right, but how? Okay, that's the rubric. Actually, that's the homework that we can do. I'll leave it up to you guys to figure out what h does, and we'll discuss it in class. And we'll do the homework in class if you do not understand it.